those joys and sorrows that we keep in our hearts, but that remain unspoken. I invite you into a time of meditation with me. And I usually tell you to close your eyes, but today I ask you to keep them open if you can. Maybe taking a deep breath in and out. Feeling yourself relaxing into your seat. The seat firm and stable beneath you, holding you steady. If you can, you might put both feet on the ground, uncrossing your legs, feeling the ground beneath you, firm and steady. Feel the seat beneath you. Focus on your hearing. What can you hear? The sound of my voice, the rustle of the people around you, perhaps even your neighbors breathing. Maybe the folks in the kitchen or a car going by. Maybe it's the sound of the birds outside, or even the rustle of the wind through the grass. Even a baby crying a little bit. Listen. What can you see, beloveds? What are we blessed with in this beautiful location? The canyon, the flowers in full bloom. Maybe it's hawks or ravens outside circling. The grass whispering and weaving, the flowers moving in the wind. The sun reflecting on the water in the distance, or even on the leaves of the trees nearby. What do you see? I invite you to let your gaze wander a bit, maybe turning one way and observing, and turning the other. What can you see? Absorb everything around you, if you can. The sights, the sounds, the smells, the textures, the feeling of the seat beneath you. Be here now. I'm going to give us a couple minutes of silence to just be in this place, experiencing everything we can. Wow. Our reading today comes from Mary Oliver, When I Am Among Trees. When I am among trees, especially the willows and the honey locust, equally the beech, the oaks, and the pines, they give off such hints of gladness that I would almost say they save me, and daily. I am so distant from the hope of myself in which I have goodness and discernment and never hurry through the world, but walk slowly and bow often. Around me the trees stir in their leaves and call out, "Stay a while." The light flows from their branches, and they call again. "It's simple," they say, "and you too have come into the world to do this, to go easy, to be filled with light, and to shine." From Mary Oliver. Our centering hymn this morning is number 21, For the Beauty of the Earth.
For the beauty of the earth, for the splendor of the sky, for the love which from our birth over and around us lie. Most of all to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise. For the joy of ear and eye, for the heart and mind's delight, for the mystic harmony, linking sense to sound and light. Source of all to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise. For the wonder of the hour, of the day and of the night, hill and dale and tree and flower, sun and moon and stars in light. Source of all to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise. For the joy of love and care, sister, brother, parent, child, for the kinship we all share, for the gentle thoughts and mild. Source of all to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise.
In recent years, we have seen the rise of the spiritual but not religious. Folks who feel spiritual connection to the world or to life or even to themselves, but don't identify with any sort of religious affiliation. We sometimes hear them called the nuns, and not the N-U-Ns as in, the Catholic religious nuns, but nuns, N-O-N-E-S, as in folks who mark none on their religious affiliation. You see this in Pew surveys about religion in America, this sort of rise of the spiritual but not religious, or the nuns. What does it mean to be spiritual? I like to think of it as a connection to something greater, a connection to something larger or different than what we can see, taste, smell, or hear. It's a connection to the goddess or the god, or even a pantheon of gods and spirits as we see in Shintoism or modern pagan practices, or even one god with many forms as we see in Hinduism. For others, it's a connection to the universe and the world, or even to each other, to the life force we sometimes name love, or to the feeling of being one with nature and the earth. Spiritual can sometimes be a feeling, a sense of deep peace and calm, an exuberant joy, a great release of emotions, a sense of deep flowing connection. Or it can even come through certain activities. We here at PUC have hosted a number of celebrations of life or memorial services over the last couple of weeks and months. I've enjoyed doing these services because they're unique to each person who has died, and through each celebration of life, we learn about the person and what I think where they found meaning and joy and where their spirituality was. For one person, it was music. We sang Amazing Grace yesterday, a favorite hymn of a man who loved music. For another, it was learning, and particularly books and libraries. Last week, at the end of a service, the family had set up an entire bookshelf and gave away books as requested by the deceased. So they had members of his friends and family come up at the end of the funeral and actually pick up books off of a bookshelf that had been set up. He loved books, really did. That was his spiritual center. For another, it was psychology and learning about the self. More than one person here at PUC that I've met through these memorial services has a deep fascination with psychological thinkers like Maslow and Gestalt and Freud. And another service, another person, a deep connection to nature and teaching others how to experience nature safely through backpacking trips and sports and other activities. For all of them, there was a sense of connection to community as well, and sometimes family. A connection to humans and the richness created when we gather in community. I've loved getting to know these people and feeling a connection to their deeper passions and love through the activities that they found meaningful and spiritual. Places can also make us feel spiritual. There may be someone's home or a relative or a friend that gives you a spiritual feeling, deep calm and connection. It may be an organization that does good work. The joy that I feel stepping into some nonprofits, knowing that they're doing something that's helping the world and changing society. It may also be church. Stepping onto campus here on Sunday, perhaps, you can feel your shoulders go down a bit. I hope it's creating a sense of a release of stress and a letting go of the week. Or maybe it's a house of worship that's not your own. Many of us find meaning in the cathedrals of Europe or even local Buddhist temples here in LA. Places can connect you to something greater, to the life force or the spirit. Nature is often a place where you feel a connection to the sacred, where we feel spiritual. Now, I'm not saying that this is true for everyone. Early in my second church internship, a leader in the church pulled me aside. She was an opinionated daughter of a Methodist preacher in her early 50s with long gray hair and a big, jovial smile. She told me, "I don't feel spiritual in nature like most you use. I find mine in the theater. Nature, for me," she said, "is uncomfortable and not at all spiritual." I could imagine that she had had too many run-ins with mosquitoes to like nature. It was a nice reminder that the places and things we find spiritual can be very individual, shaped by how we grew up and our experiences along the way. It is Earth Day, though, and I want to spend some time on the way nature can feel spiritual to some of us, the ways being in nature connects us to something greater than ourselves. In her book, Church of the Wild, Victoria Lours describes what she calls her place. As a teenager in the 1970s, she grew up in Southern California, probably in a place much like this, I imagine. Her place was on the edge of a barranca, the edge of a canyon or a gorge, or even, as the West Virginian in me would like to say, the edge of a holler or a hollow. Her place was a secret, someplace she never took anyone else and never told anyone about. She says, "I liked the getting there nearly as much as the being there. The path wandered around tall as me, wheat-looking weeds that squeaked when you pulled the heads out. Boulders and even taller bushes of scrubby sage and laurel sumac defined a particular path, a deer trail that looped around the edges of the barranca wall. The entrance was appropriately hidden. To recognize it, you needed to train your eyes and leave markers like stones atop one another or a small ribbon tied to a broken branch." She says, "It took me several visits before the homing beacon of the place would draw me there without annoying backtracking. But once I knew precisely where to pull aside the scratchy, pointed leaves of the scrawling oak bush, my place would be revealed." She would go there perhaps once a week to sit and think and to watch nature go by. This is as a teenager, she'd go to this place. Lours says, "It was a small clearing on a scrubby cliff that looked out over a mysterious campground that I couldn't quite see. The acoustics of the canyon allowed me to listen to an entire conversation of strangers at the campground who didn't realize that the walls amplified their voices. I felt deliciously invisible, imagining a whole lives of unseen people, but clearly heard in the rocks beneath 60 feet below me." So you can just imagine her sitting on this little edge of her canyon listening. The humans, though, were not the main attraction for her. Instead, it was her place to be in nature, to observe the natural world, the hawks, the lizards, the spiders, the clouds floating by, the warm Santa Ana winds. A scrub jay that became almost like a friend to her who would stop by occasionally. A sacred other being that shared this small place with her. Lours would just sit and watch and breathe and be. Just sit and listen and be. She had her own sacred place of calm. She says, "I didn't know it then, but I was learning ceremony. I was learning to meditate. I was learning to pray. I was learning that the sacred is found in the bushes, hidden from the trail, in communication with the birds and the wind, and in the trusting visit of a deer. My place was slowly turning into our place as I recognized that belonging to a much larger story, that I belonged to a much larger story. It took many years before I had a clue that this private ritual I had as a teenager, she said, was calling me into relationship with the land, the world, the sacred, and my own soul. I too have found connection to nature, and from an early age. Growing up in Cincinnati, Ohio, my friends and I would frequently play on what we called Dave's land behind our houses owned by Dave down the street. The land was wooded and sloped down into kind of a bowl and allowed us to play in the woods and on rocks and trails. As a kid, it seemed like this huge plot of land going down into the hollow, this little bowl. Though in reality, it was probably just a plot that wasn't developable because of the rocks and stuff. We would camp and we'd have bonfires. We would be in nature daily, and it was very feeding for me. And it was also right in the middle of Cincinnati, Ohio, in the city. After we moved to Virginia when I was in 6th grade, I fell into the practice of walking my dogs in the woods behind our house after school every day. Although I didn't have one spot or one place, the thousands of acres of park were my place to decompress, to think and just be in the natural world. Those walks are probably what kept me sane, to be honest. I felt a connection to the outside world, to the world going on around me. I felt peace and I felt at calm, sort of like how Mary Oliver described it. In Unitarian Universalism, there's been a renewed interest in what's called religious naturalism, a term that was first used by our own Unitarian ancestors in the 1800s. This is from the Reverend William Murray. Religious naturalism says two things. First, it holds that the natural universe is all there is. The supernatural does not exist. And second, it maintains that there is religious meaning and value in nature, a sort of agnosticism or atheism that finds holiness or sacredness or even spirituality in our natural world and the scientific principles that dictate it. Michael Battenberg, in a talk on this subject, says, religious naturalism is the child of both religion and science, and I believe it can share both of its parents' best characteristics. As naturalism, it seeks knowledge about the universe right here in this world of matter and energy, which includes our minds and our beliefs and whatever else the world of the supernatural tries to explain. As religion, it seeks to frame our existence in a field of meaning and purpose by encouraging feelings of awe, mystery, and gratitude, promoting an ongoing discipline of reflection, contemplation, and celebration. I feel a connection to this understanding of the world. Religion, religious meaning, spirituality to be found in nature without necessarily the assertion of a God or supernatural force. Instead, the spiritual is found in understanding and noticing nature and our universe, a kind of worship of what is, a spirituality, a feeling of connection to something greater in the form of our natural world. One of the things I think about as an interim minister here at PUC is what makes this church, this congregation, special. We, in fact, asked that on one of the things that the transition team has done recently. What makes this church special? In interviews, I often ask the search committee, what brought you to this church? What keeps you here? Why do you love it? And I usually hear similar things: community, friendships, people. It's the same answer I would give if I was telling the story of my own church experiences. Relationships with people are a huge part of why I came to church. In coming here to PUC, though, I think there's something that makes this church special. Our place. We are blessed with a church on a canyon overlooking the city. We are blessed with beautiful views, with trees and shrubs and flowers and succulents. We are blessed with animals like lizards and hawks and ravens. I even, after the memorial service yesterday, saw somebody pick up one of our lizards and sit there and pet it. Squirrels and rabbits, even the occasional dog. I think we have one on the patio at the moment. We are blessed with being able to feel the wind and hear the sounds of nature here. In learning about PUC's history, I've heard about various conversations around PUC's location, especially conversations that took place about 10 years ago. And they were concerned with how accessible we are up here on the hill, saying things like we should move down the hill to be more with the people, we need to be on a bus line. And I think those are really valid concerns. I wonder, though, what does PUC offer spiritually because of its place, because of its location? Can we offer a connection to nature not always felt in LA or in the shopping centers of Torrance? Can we gift or bless people with time away from the hustle and bustle of it all? A chance to experience something different or something unique. To connect to the spiritual side of nature. Beloveds, in coming to PUC, one of my practices has been going out to our meditation garden on my lunch hour, or even for a couple minutes between meetings, to recenter and take in the natural world. I can feel my heart rate drop and a sense of calm return to me with just a couple of minutes of taking in our view and the natural world around us. It's such a gift, such a blessing provided to us, this wonderful place. So on this Earth Day and Anniversary Sunday, may we be blessed by our place, our PUC place, our little bit of the natural world that awes and inspires us, that has the potential to fill us with peace and joy. Perhaps if you have some time after service today, you can take a little walk into our meditation garden and feel the sense of peace and calm to be found here. On this Earth Day and Anniversary Sunday, I'm grateful to the earth and to the place, PUC, to our place that we call home. May it be so. Amen.
Thank you. That was wonderful. And now it's time for our offertory. Today we'll split our offering with the Peninsula Harbor Crop Hunger Walk. This is a community-based walk created to support the global mission of Church World Service as organizing, transforming communities around the globe through just and sustainable responses to hunger, poverty, displacement, and disease. After a crop hunger walk ends, 25% of the funds raised is returned to the host community to support local hunger fighting efforts, and we're going today. So please go with us in spirit. Thank you. And now for our musical offertory. Thank you.
I'm gonna live the life I sing about in my song. I'm gonna fight for right and always shun the wrong. If I'm in a crowd or in my home, on a street or alone, see, I'm gonna live the life I sing about in my song. Every day, everywhere, out on the busy thoroughfare, folks may watch me, some may spot me, some say I'm foolish, but I don't care. I can't sing one thing and then live another, be a saint by day and a devil undercover. I'm gonna live the life I sing about in my song. Ladies and gentlemen, Michael Sousa and Dr. Seven Bennett. I'm gonna fight for right and always shun the wrong. In a crowd or if I'm alone, out out in my song, in my song, in my song, in my song. Live my life in my song.
That was beautiful. Let's read together our affirmation of gratitude. After that, we're very grateful. Let us be grateful when we're able to give, for many do not have that privilege. Let us be grateful for all those who share their gifts, for we are enriched by their giving. And let us also be grateful even for our needs, so that we may experience the generosity of others. And our closing hymn.
Well, this little light of mine, I'm
This church is dedicated to the proposition that behind all our differences, beneath all our diversity, there's a unity that makes us one and binds us forever together, in spite of time and death and the space between the stars. We pause in silent witness to that unity.
May the blessing of love be upon you. May love's peace abide with you. May love's presence illuminate your hearts, now and forevermore. So be it. Amen. Shalom. Salam. Namaste. And blessed be. And now our service truly begins.